Welcome to the Growing with Charles Malki podcast. In this episode, we're going to be discussing pests and how every organic garden must have some. I am Charles Malki, the co-founder of Ivy Organic Brand Products and host of the Ivy Organic YouTube, America's leading garden product YouTube channel, and author of Saving the World with the Home Garden, Improving Our Planet's Health with Natural Gardening Lessons. In the Old Testament, there's a quote which reads in Genesis, "Then the Lord God took man and put him in the Garden of Eden to farm the land and to take care of it." Similarly, I feel like we all have a duty to this planet to take care of it, not just in the religious context of the Bible, but it is our duty as civic gardeners, and if you're a commercial farmer as well, to be doing the best practices to create the best, healthiest foods possible. And I truly believe that if you practice these methods, that you can actually be growing foods that are better than you would find in your local organic health food store, because you're picking and growing the things and using and ideally consuming these products that would otherwise be in the organic, section of your grocery store, something that's been sitting there for days, if not weeks, dying since it was picked, compared to what's achievable with backyard gardening. The plant is begging for help to survive its war against pests. A pesticide, even organic, should not be used. Again, I'm reiterating that the point is that only use a pesticide, and again, even organic pesticides, if your plant is needing it in order to survive. A lot of gardeners, especially the beginner gardener, when they see a pest in one corner of the garden, are so eager to apply pesticides broadly over the entire garden. If they see an aphid on their tomato, they're now spraying for pest control on their peppers and on their squash and on their roses and on their fruit trees, just because they saw a pest issue on one plant. That issue on the plant may be happening only because there's some disease happening at the root level. There's some weakness happening within the plant. There's a lot of variations and factors. One main question I get from a lot of callers is, why is my tree dying? Why are my plants dying? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on, did you water it too much? Did you not water it enough? Have you ever fertilized your plant? When was the last time and how much did you fertilize it? If you fertilize it too much, you don't fertilize it enough. Light requirements. Different plants have different light requirements. Too much light, not enough light. And the list continues. When it comes to pests on your plants, and again, as I mentioned in this quote, if and only if a plant is begging for help to survive its war against pests, a pesticide, even organic, should not be used. The point with this is that the plant may be suffering something internally that's making it susceptible to a disease, similar to with humans battling their fight with cancer or heart disease or any other disease. There's a root cause, and a good doctor will sometimes go deep into analyzing what's the issue with this particular person. Obviously, starting with diet and exercise and various other things that contribute to why is disease affecting this particular person. Similarly, your plants. We got to go and find out, why is this plant suffering with a massive aphid infestation, for example. But my point with this lesson on organic gardening is that your aphids that you find in your garden, if you see 2 or 3 aphids or even 100 aphids on a plant, if you see that the overall health of the plant, like let's say this Phoenix robellini, also known as the pygmy palm, had aphids, let's say, on one leaf or a few leaves or on a certain section of the plant, if it could be controlled, and again, you'll see where I'm leading with this. If it can be controlled where the disease portion can be removed, that would be a better practice than still applying an organic pesticide or any pesticide on the plant. So one approach would be to see if you can remove the pest. If it's aphids specifically, and there's a lot of research and documentation with organic gardeners, simply just hosing the aphids off the plant. When it comes to aphids, it's a good sign to see aphids on your plants. Other pests that we're looking at in the garden include caterpillars, ants, beetles, and the list continues. These are all things that we don't want to see happening in our garden, but if you do, it's a good sign for the organic gardener, because what else is going to feed now the predators within your garden, those cute little red ladybugs in your garden, or the praying mantis. These are things that gardeners go to their box stores and purchase and bring these predators into their garden. But for what would you be bringing in ladybugs and praying mantis? And another beneficial most people don't consider are spiders. These things are consuming the pests, your aphids and your caterpillars and your ants and your beetles on your property. And if you don't have the predators, then and the pests, then you're lacking that cycle of food that is required in an organic garden in order to sustain a good balance of health in your garden. So again, if you see aphids in your garden, that is a good thing. I know you rarely would hear that, but you've heard it here first, maybe, that again, pests are a good sign in an organic garden. You see the prey, that aphid, and now you're looking for the predators. And remember, you're going to see a lot of pests per single predators, right? Because a single predator, such as an aphid, might eat 5 to 10, maybe 20 bugs a day. So the pyramid with the predators at the top, such as the lion in the safari, is one of hundreds of wildebeest that it's now going out into the prairie and looking for food. Similarly, that praying mantis, there's one compared to the thousands of pests that are within the organic garden. And to maintain a good, healthy organic garden requires both pests and predators. So consider that the next time you go and spray a pesticide on your plant. With that, I'd like to go quickly into the Ivy Organic brand products before we talk about the different layers of pest control. The Ivy Organic brand products are designed as a pest repellent, specifically your beetles, termites, pests that might be chewing, sucking, piercing on your plants. Specifically, let's use, for example, beetles and termites that might be boring into your apple tree. You may want to use the Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard. This here has an additional 7 oils that are included, which include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils with the base ingredients, which include limestone, mica, and diatomaceous earth, with these milk proteins create a strong bond, which encapsulate these oils and create a scent that's basically repulsive to pests, such as, again, beetles and termites and ants and so forth. And it'll prevent them from boring into, or if they're already in your plant, if they were to bore out of it, it's going to damage those pests on their way in and out of the tree. If you start spotting more holes in the weeks or months to follow, you might want to apply a second layer, and this is going to allow your trees to naturally heal over. Similarly, you can also use that as a ready-to-use spray. And as a spray, again, you've got all of these ingredients that are repelling pests and giving, especially your starter plants like your tomatoes, peppers, squash, and so forth, even your established fruit trees that you're planting. You might whitewash those tree trunks, curbing weather extremes, and then spraying the entire structure, leaves and all, to basically keep pests from, again, chewing, piercing, and damaging your new structure, especially when they're small. A little bite can mean life and death for a lot of these starter plants. And for your established trees or bigger trees, by spraying the entire structure, you're also helping to curb weather extremes in addition to helping with transplant shock. And all of these benefits will help get your plants off to an excellent start. So again, these are some practices we really encourage doing at the time of planting and or after summer pruning, because now you're opening the canopy, exposing again excess light, and that's a good time to also be curbing those weather extremes against the plant, and then using it as needed again to save your plants from those extremes, environmental stresses, and pest control. Now, when it comes to degrees of pest control, there's various classifications. One of them, and one of the lightest and most gentle and easiest thing you can do in your garden, is something known as pest repellents. And repellents are generally designed to keep pests out of your garden and off your plants without killing them. And the Ivy Organic brand products are specifically designed to accomplish that most gentle and organic applications for guarding your plants. The next level up is something called catch and release. So catch and release would be something like those little animal traps for catching a rodent or a squirrel or whatever other creatures that might be in your garden that may be causing or wreaking havoc within your garden, and you catch it and then release it somewhere else. There's a lot of, obviously, research that says not to move these critters as you're also potentially moving disease. And obviously what's home for one critter is not home if you even move it across the street, creating, other issues. But catch and release is like the next stage up from managing pest issues within a property. The next most severe level is catch and kill, and that's where you'll find, like, for example, those mouse traps, or there's adhesive tape products and glues that attract certain insects and pests, and you're basically catching and ultimately killing those pests within your garden that way. So you got the catch and kill method, and then you get to the pesticide level, whether they be organic or the synthetic stuff. I would always err towards the organic. On the organic side, aside from the Ivory Organic brand products, there's stuff such as neem oil. And neem oil, for those of you that are using it, you can infuse these products with neem oil to gain the additional benefits of neem. So with your brush-on solution, you can add about a teaspoon of neem with these pint-sized can and add the additional value of what neem oil can do in addition to putting them in your ready-to-use spray bottles. And what neem simply does is it basically attacks pests from the inside and outside. So neem oils in general, when you spray them within the garden, and you know that the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils. So when it gets on the bodies of the pest, you're basically, ants, beetles, termites, all of these insects that have exoskeletons, they are basically breathing through their skeletons. And by getting oil on their bodies, they're ultimately suffocating and you're shortening their life. Neem oil is an additional benefiting oil in the sense that when these pests consume the oil, such as, again, if they're chewing or piercing any of the plant parts that have oils of neem oil on them, and now they're ingesting it, it basically now starts killing the pest from the inside out. So it's basically 2 added layers of benefit with horticultural oils such as neem oil. And then another product that's also organic and safer in the organic garden are spinosad-based products. And spinosad is basically a bacteria that is used that, again, when chewing, piercing, boring insects get the spinosad consumed as they're, on these protected plant parts, they basically end up with a stomach ache that within 1 to 3 days, they basically stop growing and ultimately die. So I shared with you a couple more organic alternatives for maintaining your organic garden. And then obviously you've got your synthetic pesticides. And the reason I highly encourage you to avoid them is your goal with the backyard grower is to do the best you possibly can. You're supposed to be meeting and exceeding anything you would get from the organic aisle at your grocery store. And by introducing pesticides in your garden, you've just ruined that. You've contaminated your soil, you've contaminated your community with the rain and the runoff that's happening, and your local rivers, and ultimately that one ocean and this one planet that we all share. So I like to conclude with basically taking questions from customers, and it's easy for you guys to all participate. And you simply can email us at info@ivoryorganics.com. You can also send us a voicemail at 1-800-875-0333. Please include the following information when you submit your questions: your first name, city and state, and your grow zone. And we will basically be selecting from the series of questions that we read out during our podcast. We'll be nominating one of you guys for a chance to win an Ivory Organic brand product up to $40 in value with free shipping anywhere in the United States. So just something to encourage you guys to bring in your questions, and we have a chance to hopefully answer your questions here on our podcast. The first one here comes from Wayne W. And his question to us is, what is the concern that California is raising concerning Ivory Organic and cancer? And what he's referring to is on the back side of all of our product labels, you'll notice that there's a Prop 65 statement. And this is a California requirement disclaimer that you'll find if you go to any amusement park. Here we are in Los Angeles, California. So you enter Universal Studios, or if you're down in Orange County and you go to Disneyland, or if you go to most chain restaurants, most coffee houses, any parking garage. Again, for those of you living in California, you guys are familiar with this Prop 65 warning that you see on virtually everything. It's just simply the fact that there's a chance that there is a possible exposure to cancer. And the only reason the Ivory Organic brand products makes any reference to the Prop 65 is the fact that some of our ingredients are in contact with plastics. And if it comes into the contact with plastic bags, specifically some of the ingredients we work with are organic cinnamon and organic garden powder, specifically designed for organic cooking within your home needs, and that these products are also delivered to us and manufactured here in California and have the Prop 65 warnings that come on our organic powder and organic garlic powders and oils. And we have to pass on that warning, even though the risk, in my opinion, is extremely low. We just have to pass on that warning through our manufacturing processes here in California. I hope that makes sense, and we will hopefully be including a brief statement somewhere on the website to help answer these questions so we can give you the link. Thank you, Wayne W., for addressing this, as it does come up several times every year. So Christopher S. asks, in regards to the freezing of the products, is like, I'm a little hesitant to freeze the can again after my experience, and I'm thinking the best idea might be to mix up smaller batches as I need it. And when it comes to the Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard and the pint-sized products, and it could also be in the gallon sizes. The yellow cans, which are with oils, come in 5 different colors for those of you watching this for the first time, and that is in colors white, brown, green, gray, and grayish. The Whitewash, which is oil-free, are available in colors white, brown, and green. The question is, because they're organic products, and once you add water, these products are shipped dry. You simply add water to the can if you want a can of brush-on solution. If you're looking for a tree paste, you're going to add significantly less water. You're going to follow the directions on the back side of the can with creating consistency that would be ideal for your grafting wounds. If there's any specific scarring or damaged area on your tree that you want to fill in, where a paste would be of more use than the brush-on. Again, less water and you'll have the tree paste formula. And then obviously these pint-sized cans can also make your ready-to-use formula as well, up to 5 gallons of foliar spray using a pint-sized can. So consider this your concentrate. And because it's organic, once you add water to it, the product should be used within 2 weeks of water being added to the product. In the dry state, the product has a shelf life of 5 years. Once you add water, it's supposed to be used within 2 weeks because of the milk proteins specifically within the product begin to degrade. To preserve them, it's recommended that if you've added water to the entire contents, is that you freeze it. And if you freeze it, you can pretty much preserve those proteins for somewhere between a year or two, preferably. But for the best application and the best use of the product, you should be only adding water to the contents that you intend to use, preferably that day or that week. You'll notice that the consistency of the product is going to be a lot more fresh and a lot more easier to use than if you're adding water to the whole thing and then freezing the whole thing and then thawing it out and trying to regain the consistency that it once was. So my tip to Chris S. is that you only mix what you intend to use. And the simple instruction, and this answers like hundreds of questions that we get every year. If you're only needing like a pint-sized can of brush-on, if you're looking for about a quarter of a can of brush-on solution, you're simply going to use about a quarter of the bag. And if it comes with the oil, since you got the yellow label, you're going to use about a quarter of that vial of oil. You can roughly estimate about a quarter of the bag. You don't have to use specific measurements and count the ounces and so forth, but you can if you want to. But again, a quarter of the bag with a quarter amount of the oils, and obviously you're going to fill up the can a quarter of the way, and you'll have the same consistency as if you're making a full can with the full bag of powder and that full oil vial that's included with each of these pint-sized cans. So I hope that answers your question, Chris S. And if you have any other questions, obviously you know how to reach out to us. So our third and final question comes from Jenny C. And she asks, does temperature affect the application of the product, and when is the best time of the day for applying the product to my plants? And the answer, Jenny, is temperature does matter. You're going to want to make sure it's not like incredibly hot, and obviously it shouldn't be raining when you're applying the products. The Personally, the best time of the day for applying the products is in the morning hours. So it has pretty much all day and afternoon to dry, and creating the strongest bond to your plant. Before living here in Los Angeles, California, most of our evenings, humidity levels go through the roof. Plants get wet just with the dew overnight, and that could interfere with the bond of the products if, again, it's applied late in the evening when the humidity levels are higher. So my advice to you, Jenny, is that you apply it early in the day. Make sure humidity levels are low. Temperature range above freezing, but below, I would say 85 degrees. So in regards to range, you pretty much have all the range. I just want to, hopefully guide you in the direction of an earlier application. Another one that comes often is how does it affect bees, as we talked about pests in this particular episode. And the goal with the products is obviously not to get it on the bodies of the bees. Don't be spraying it or going after or in the direction of the bees when applying the product. And the way to avoid bees when applying the products is by applying it in the early morning hours or now in the later evening hours. If you know the humidity levels are going to be low overnight, you can go later on in the day as well when the bee populations are lower. Again, when you're using the sprays, just make sure you're not spraying it on their bodies. Stay clear of flowers and so forth when applying the products so that you don't affect the landing pads and so forth. So again, by simply applying the products in the very early morning hours or later evening hours, you're basically reducing the risk of getting on the bees, as again, you don't want to get diatomaceous earth on and within the crevices of the bee's body, as that could be harmful. And again, once the product dries on, the risk is extremely low. And we've successfully been applying these products and working with organic gardeners around the world for over a decade successfully, and we're excited to hopefully be a part of your growing successes as well. And with that being said, let's do the drawing. And again, with only 3 names here, our lucky winner for this, your choice, Ivory Organic brand product, up to a $40 value with free shipping, goes to Christopher S. Congratulations, and we'll be reaching out to you in the coming days, and we look forward to hearing from you and being a part of all of your growing successes. Be sure to join us on all of our social media platforms, and if you can't watch us, catch us wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's keep growing, and wishing you all happy gardening.